friends. Hello, hi, how are you? I hope you guys are having an amazing day today. Hello. So, have I been watching too much Butte Bean? Absolutely. That's why I'm wearing so much blush. Butte Bean is literally my new obsession. I watch her videos constantly and her makeup is goals to me. So I tried to imitate it today and failed, but I still think she's fabulous. I'm gonna link her down below because she's freaking awesome. Anyway, today I just like looked in the mirror as I was doing my makeup and I was like, her influence, because I never put on this much blush. Hi friends, hello, hi, how are you? I hope you guys are having an amazing day today. Hello. So today we are gonna be reacting to episode 3 of Instant Influencer. I have to warn you guys right off the bat, this was my absolute least favorite episode of the entire show. I really did not love this episode. It was definitely my least favorite, and I'm gonna tell you why that is. People who might be stans that aren't gonna love this opinion. So if you absolutely thought this episode was the bee's knees and there was no criticism, I'm not the channel for you. Hi, hello. The third episode of Instant Influencer is titled, I have to apologize for this, ... First thing that happens is James comes in and he kind of pulls, very reminiscent of America's Next Top Model when Tyra would like play pranks on the contestants, like she fake fainted or whatever. And he was acting all mad and he was acting upset and he was like, you guys know what you did, and they were all confused and scared, and then he was like, just kidding, today's compact challenge is that you are gonna have to fake an apology. And so basically he said that if you're an influencer and if you grow, you're going to say things that are going to require an apology. Before we even get into like what the contestants actually did and how the challenge unfolded, I will say building in to a competition about being an influencer, learning how to apologize does feel a little weird. I do think that it is a little problematic to assume that just because a person is on social media that they will have to give some sort of apology. It does happen. Like, obviously there's people who are popular who say or do things and kind of mess up and they do have to apologize for it. I think a perfect example of somebody who is very unproblematic but still had to apologize is Jenna Marbles, because she made a fish video and in it she spread misinformation about fish, and she made a 45-minute apology video really detailing like why she was wrong and explaining things. So it's true that, you know, if you have a large platform, you, over a long period of time, probably are going to make a mistake and have to give some sort of like statement on that. That's not really an incorrect assumption. However, I think building it into the structure of a competition that is supposed to show who is the next big influencer is just inherently problematic. That is not like the foundation for being an influencer. Saying crappy things and then having to apologize for them is not a foundation level need to be an influencer. I do appreciate it that it was just the mini challenge, because if they had made that the main challenge, that would have been ridiculous. I am glad that it just seemed to be sort of a silly and fun thing. But it got even worse kind of as the challenge went on, because he was like, you have 15 minutes, you are given a mini scandal, and through that mini scandal you have to make a 1-minute apology video. And so all the contestants run off, they have their little iPhones, they're like making their apology videos, and the scandals were pretty basic. It was like, I didn't show up to a meet and greet, or I edited photos too heavily, or I used too many clickbait titles and people were calling me out for it. Like basic things. Those, honestly, besides the meet and greet thing, pretty much those are things influencers don't apologize for. I don't think James has ever apologized for photoshopping his pictures too much. Maybe he has, but I don't know. I did feel like they were like kind of basic stuff. I was glad they did that. However, then the contestants started making their videos, and Benny in particular used water to ruin his makeup so he could have like tears streaming down his face, and his video was just very like silly and over dramatic. It was basically a parody of Laura Lee's apology video, which was heavily criticized, very much used as the baseline of what not to do in an apology video. I felt like Ashley genuinely just like gave an apology that I think most people would give, which was just kind of genuine. She wasn't like over dramatic, she wasn't weird about it. Kaylin unfortunately didn't get to finish her video because she ran out of time. It seems like time management is like her big thing this season. That's like her struggle. And Gabriel's video was, you know, it was a little over dramatic, but it wasn't the worst. It was like whatever. But Benny's was so over dramatic. Like he's crying, it's literally was a parody. And I think I was a little annoyed because James ended up picking Benny's, which was the very obvious parody of, you know, what an apology is supposed to be. Here's the thing. I don't want people to think that I'm being annoying and I can't just like have fun with anything. I feel like people are gonna be like, Hannah, it's just a joke. It was just a cute little thing. You're thinking about it too deeply, which I probably am, but like I will say, I think the implications of picking the somewhat parody video kind of shows that it feels like a parody to these influencers who have to apologize. It makes influencer apologies, which already seem so inauthentic and so bad all the time for whatever reason. Like they always just seem so bad. They always seem so inauthentic. It was weird to pick the one that almost would have been a joke of those things. And I thought it was really interesting that he picked that one because James, in his own scandals, he had the first video he put out with Tati, with the Tati situation. He had that first video where he was crying and he was too dramatic and people hated it. He got so much hate for it. And then when he put together his other video, a lot of people turned back into his favor because it was calm, it was rational, he was explaining things, he apologized kind of where he needed to. And I was definitely put off that he wouldn't pick a person who took the challenge seriously, because if you were actually an influencer who actually got in a scandal like that and actually needed to apologize, you would want to take that seriously. Maybe I'm just crazy, but I just don't think that apologizing as an influencer is as hard as people make it out to be, especially the influencers who have to do it. I don't think it's hard. I just think that in order to apologize correctly for things, you need to have actually made some sort of internal change in your life. And a lot of influencers don't do that before getting on camera to apologize. They just rush and they're like, I'm sorry. And then there's always this undertone of like, but you guys are making me feel really bad about it and you shouldn't be. And it's just like, that's kind of the undertone of these apologies we've seen. And to have Benny go and do this, you know, he was being funny, whatever, but to have him go and do this more satirical version of that and not take it seriously and make it seem like these influencer apologies are so inauthentic and are almost like a joke. And a lot of the time, the reasons influencers are being called out is for really serious stuff. They're getting called out for racism, sexism, xenophobia. Like, it's serious stuff. It's not just like, oh, you edited your pictures too much. So I will say, challenge itself was just so cringy to me. I don't understand why they included it. And I will say, a lot of the comments I've been getting on these videos, because I've criticized a lot, like, what is the point of this show? Like, what, not all of the challenges really tie in to what it means to be an influencer. And a lot of people have really hit the nail on the head when they're saying, this isn't really next instant influencer. This is training to be the next James Charles. That's what this show kind of feels like. And I think in this episode in particular, that was really exemplified with this first challenge. He is testing to see who can successfully be the next him, and not necessarily the next actual social media makeup influencer. So I hated that first challenge. That's my little end rant. I just thought it was really bad. Then we get to the actual main challenge of the day, which is collabs. So I actually thought this was a great challenge idea. I really, really, really liked the idea of doing this as a challenge. I didn't know exactly how they were gonna do it, but I do think collabs are really important on YouTube. I've done a couple in-person collabs on my channel, but I also do a lot of not in-person collabs because unfortunately, if you don't live in LA, which most YouTubers don't, despite popular belief, you're not all in one place and you can't always like connect with each other to actually do an in-person one. So what small influencers often do is kind of like far apart collabs, which, you know, we do the best we can. But he made a really good point that the main goal of a collab is not only to create interesting content, obviously, and have a good dynamic with that person or really like that person, but another reason is that you're cross-promoting your channel. Obviously, when you get to the point of millions and millions of subscribers and you're collabing with somebody else who has millions and millions of subscribers, that's kind of the point. But I will say, just from a small creator perspective, I don't think that it's as much about numbers and cross-promotion. I think it's more about you have this idea that you want to do with this person, so you do it. Like when I was planning Glomus, I reached out to Robbie D. Christie, who has so many more subscribers than me, but like she didn't care at all. She was just like, I gave her the idea. I was like, I think this would be really fun to do with you. And she was all for it. So it's kind of like, for a lot of people, it's not necessarily about cross promotion. She had nothing to gain from doing that with me. She just thought it was also a cool idea. So I do think that it's not always about numbers, and I almost wanted to clarify that because I think the idea that you can't collab with a creator who's much bigger than you because you don't necessarily have anything to give numbers wise to them is not necessarily a true thing amongst the beauty community. It might be with people who are much bigger and have bigger statuses, but I also will say if you're a small creator, don't feel intimidated to reach out to somebody who has like 15,000 subscribers even if you only have 2,000. Like, it's okay to not be able to give everything in a collab. Sometimes it's just about having a fun idea. Wanted to give that small note because the more I watch this show, I do feel like this show and the concepts in it, most of the concepts in it, are representative of a certain type of influencer and a certain type of community that is not necessarily representative of the beauty community as a whole. That makes sense? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to be too nitpicky because I am genuinely trying to like be fair here. But the more and more I watch it, some of the things they say, as a person who creates like beauty and commentary content, I'm like, I don't agree with that at all. Based on all the people I've met and all the things I've seen, like that's not been my experience at all. And I know a lot of other creators who are around my size and a little bit bigger and a little bit smaller feel a very similar way that I do. But the challenge was collabs, and he brought out 4 influencers who have like millions of subs. He brought out Nikita Dragun, interesting choice. Nikita Dragun, go watch Luke Alexander's video on her, I love Luke, he's like, oh, I love him. But he did a video on her reality show, and it's very interesting. I don't think anyone's paying attention to a reality show really, but like his commentary on it shed a lot of light on what's going on over there on Snapchat. So Nikita Dragun, Bretman Rock, who I actually like Bretman Rock. I don't really watch him, but I've heard he's very unproblematic, which I appreciate. They had Louis Castro, and then they also had Nima Tang, who I love Nima Tang. She's probably my favorite out of the people who showed up on this thing. I think she's just like her videos are very calming to me. She's just got a very, even when she's talking about things that are really important and like she gets upset, she's still very like just calm and rational and like speaks her mind very well. I love Nima. She's fantastic. So all of the contestants get to meet them, and then Benny, because he won the challenge, gets to pick not only who he wants to do a collaboration with, collab video, but also gets to assign all of the other contestants. So Benny picks Bretman, he assigns Ashley Nikita, he assigns Gabriel with Nima, and he assigns Louis and Kaylin to be together, which I actually thought was really nice. I'm not gonna lie, I felt like he could have paired people who maybe wouldn't have worked as well together, but he definitely went the nice route with it and paired people who it seemed like they would have good vibes and good connections with and all that. So I was glad that he did that and wasn't like rude about it. Like some contestants probably could have been, but he was very nice in his picking. So the challenge was they had to create a 3 to 5 minute collaboration video, and they had 3 hours to do so. Again, I know that time constraints are important in a competition. I understand that. And I do think that time management as an influencer is something that's important because sometimes you are working on deadlines, sometimes you have to get a video up at a certain time, like whatever. I understand all of that. 3 hours to meet a person, come up with a concept, film the video together and have great chemistry even though you met 20 minutes ago, and then edit the entire video down to 3 to 5 minutes, which is a very, very, very short video, especially for a collab video. I got it on the first kind of round because you're kind of, and the first time you're trying to like weed out who is going to be like really good and who maybe wouldn't be the best pick, right? So I understood for the first round putting that time crunch on them that was so severe, but I do think as the competition goes on, this was the episode before the finale. So I do feel like because the challenge was obviously harder and more complicated, they should have been given an extra hour or 2 to complete the task. On most other competition shows I've seen like this, that is typically the case. Like as the competition moves on, obviously the requirements and what you're supposed to be doing is more intense, so they're given more time. I think they absolutely should have been given more time because that's just not enough to successfully create a video like that. It's really not enough time. So all of them go off and they come up with their ideas, and Benny's idea is they're gonna do the 5 minute makeup challenge, which I thought that was a great idea idea because it's quick to edit. And I was like, that from a time perspective, fantastic idea, because you only have 5 minutes of, you really only have 10 minutes of footage, and then editing that down to 5 is pretty easy. So I thought that was a smart idea on him and Bretman's part. Gabriel and Nima decided they were gonna do like Zodiac does my makeup, which I thought was a good idea in theory. It ended up being not great for them. Kaylin and Louis decided they were gonna do like Kaylin just doing his makeup based on his favorite snacks. I don't watch Louis, but I guess his channel kind of revolves around snacks. And then Nikita and Ashley decided to do a more personal, get unready with me style video. I will say, I think anybody who doesn't have a lot of experience in front of a camera, which is all of these people, I think besides kind of Ashley and Kaylin, because they seem to be a lot more focused on their YouTube, where Benny and Gabriel are definitely a little bit more focused on their like Instagram stuff. I think it's a little bit of a disadvantage to put them with people who have so many subscribers, because obviously the people who have built up their channels this way, they built their channels for a reason. Like, they're very good on camera. They're very easy to watch. They've built up really good camera personalities. And I thought when I saw the people, I was like, oh, this is going to be kind of tough, because it could go one of either way, where either the contestant tries to overcompensate to match the personality of the person they're with, or they kind of get pushed to the background because the person they're with has such a big personality that they can't keep up. Personally, I would rather have seen people get pushed to the background and still stay true to themselves and be their authentic selves than see them be really extravagant when they're not normally. We get to the judging and we're like watching the videos.
Hi, it's editing me. So I just would like to also add that Lipstick Nick was the guest judge for this episode, and I found that to be very interesting. And Lipstick Nick, I actually really like her, but I feel as though she's like an enigma in the beauty community, because she somehow is able to be friends with everybody despite everybody hating each other. It's so interesting to me. Like, she stays above all of it, really. Like, she's BFFs with Jeffree Star, but she's also friends with James, she's friends with Laura, she's friends with Manny, she does everyone's freaking makeup. Like, she's like one of the most underrated, stays under the radar and somehow doesn't get sucked into other people's bullshit. And I don't know. I thought that was interesting to note. But she was the guest judge for this episode, and I was actually excited because I really like Lipstick Nick. So that's that on that.
And there was all this stress about time because they literally didn't have enough time. Like, nobody had enough time. We watched Benny and Bretman's video first, and I will say, I guess I haven't seen too much of Benny's on-camera personality, but it did feel like he was trying to overcompensate his personality to match Bretman's, which put a little bit of an it just was awkward. It was kind of awkward to watch. It felt like he was trying to be over the top and crazy and really sassy, just like Bretman is. And it's kind of like when you're in a situation like that where you're collabing with a person, you want to match their energy, but you don't want to take over their persona. If that video had been posted on Bretman's channel of Benny, you know, overcompensating kind of, I think that would not have gone over well for him. I think a lot of people, just like unannounced, they just did this collab. I think Benny would not have been received very well because I think he was just way too over dramatic and over the top. I kind of wish he had just been more himself, even again if that meant he like fell back a little bit. I thought all of the influencers did a really good job guiding and giving advice to the contestants. I also appreciated that. It was kind of cool to see people that aren't James, who are also successful in the industry, how they kind of navigate things and the advice that they would give. I thought that was nice. For Ashley and Nikita's video, I personally just am not the biggest Nikita Dragon fan, so I didn't like Nikita's vibe in the video because I just am not a fan of hers. However, I do really like Ashley. I'm still like Team Ashley, I'm not gonna lie. I think she's great. And I loved that she had the idea to be more kind of like open about her life and her personal life, because I do think as an influencer, you want to, you know, be careful. You don't want to spread all of your life on the internet because, you know, there's goods and bads. But I do think the importance of sharing that she was a teen mom and sharing how hard that was and, you know, the challenges that she faced going through that. I think a lot of women can relate to that. A lot of teen moms can relate to that. And to promote that she was still, you know, really successful and was able to continue on with her life despite having these challenges, I think, you know, it's really good to talk about those things. It's good to share a personal side to yourself. And if I had seen that video of her, I would have felt so much more connected and related to her, because I think Ashley's biggest problem, she's a little bit more like laid back and like chill, and you can tell that her focus is on the artistry. So I think getting to see more of her personality through this video was actually fantastic. And the judges criticized her editing and how it was a little bit choppy. And I'm not gonna lie, had they given the contestants the ability to do more than a 5-minute video, I think a lot of that would have been solved. I'm sure for judging purposes, that would have been like trickier to have longer videos, but like making a 5-minute video is not even like reminiscent of how you should be doing it on YouTube. YouTube and the algorithm prefer long form content. They don't prefer short skit-like 5-minute videos, short, concise videos. Those aren't the videos that get pushed into the algorithm the same way that a 20-minute video of a sit down, get ready with me would be pushed through the algorithm. So I don't know. I'm sure there was a reason for that, like logistics wise, but the fact that they gave them no time and then criticized them for having like weird editing was like super annoying to me. So then we had Nima and Gabriel, and I will say I love Gabriel. He's so sweet. I feel so bad for him, but I just feel like he's so good at artistry. Like the look he did on Nima looked stunning, but I don't think he's like the type of influencer that James wants on this show. Like I think he just does his thing, does his artistry. I don't think he super puts a lot of effort into his YouTube content from what I've seen from his channel. He mainly focuses on Instagram, and I think he does really well there, but I think he's not the type of influencer that this show was looking for. The video was really awkward. He did like a time lapse, which normally would have been okay if he had been able to cut things in, but he just didn't have time. He only finished filming with Nima, I think 50 minutes before they were supposed to have their videos done. And frankly, 50 minutes, if you have like 2 hours of footage, there's no way. Like that's not happening. I will say Nima seemed to be very helpful, and she definitely tried to like encourage him and move him along, but he kind of took way too much time doing the actual look, whereas I think more time, if you're given that type of time crunch, should have been put towards the editing. And the judges basically said the same thing. They were like, yeah, not great. Next was Kaylin and Louise, and I was actually really surprised that this got so much criticism from the judges. From what I saw, this was my favorite video. I felt like her and Louis had a cute energy. They were super bubbly and energetic. She did his makeup, and they talked, and then they did some little jokes that were referencing to his channel. She was the only influencer that I saw that referenced his channel and his content so much and what he does. Part of doing a collab, that's definitely a part of that, is you want to reference what that person normally does because you want people to go and click and find that person too. So I will say I thought she nailed it with that. I thought she did so well interacting with him. I thought it wasn't awkward at all. It was really organic. The judges didn't seem to like it because they thought the editing was a little too choppy, and they felt like she didn't shine as much in the video compared to him. But again, I will say these are people who up until 3 weeks ago had like 4,000 subscribers, and now they're being paired with people who have millions of subscribers. And I actually thought she did the best of still being herself and being like kind of her bubbly persona, and still kind of shining next to him. I thought she did a really great job with that. One thing about this challenge too that I thought was a little bit interesting was for this challenge, they had all of the contestants show like a thumbnail and a title, and they asked the judges, would you click this? I so wish they had done that in the first episode as well that was revolved around videos. And I wish they had done that in the drag challenge, but instead it was like an Instagram picture and it was like, will you like this? Because that is a huge, huge, huge part of doing social media, is figuring out titles and thumbnails and putting effort into those things. Definitely helps you with engagement. The whole point of social media and the goal of social media is to get a person to stop scrolling and click on something. That's like your main objective when you're posting content. You want a person to stop scrolling and to like or click. So adding that aspect I think was great, but I wish it had been an aspect that was incorporated throughout the entirety of the season so far. So we get to the elimination and Gabriel went home. I was sad, but I did feel like it was expected. I think the thing about this show is that it is a touch predictable. Like besides the kind of bombshell of Indigo going home, which I disagreed with, but besides that, there hasn't been a lot of like, oh my God, I wasn't seeing that coming. The three that I predicted to make it to the final three were Ashley, Kaylin, and Indigo. So the fact that Benny's there is like a little bit of surprise, but I was able to predict 2 of the 3 people who would be in the final episode on the first day. They also didn't announce a winner for the challenge, and I saw a lot of people speculating in the comments that it was because Ashley likely would have won, and this would have been her like third time winning. And I agree. I think that's why they didn't show her officially winning, because I think she's won too much. It's pretty obvious to me that it's either going to be Ashley or Kaylin who's going to win. While I think Benny is really sweet and cute, I do think his personality, he still kind of has to grow into it. He is 18, so I mean, Kaylin and Ashley are a little bit older. I think they've grown into their personalities a little bit, and I think Benny is still kind of young, figuring out his personality and also figuring out his artistry, whereas I feel like Ashley and Kaylin are a little bit more into that. But I also think it's pretty obvious at this point, Ashley has won like every challenge, so it's pretty clear that she's probably going to win. She also seems to be a judge favorite, so I will say that's one thing about this show is as I'm watching it, it is getting not boring, just like a little redundant, because it's like, okay, I know who's going to do really well and I know who's not going to do really well. And I think that comes along with not having as many contestants, which it is a first season. James is saying he's trying to push for a second season, so I think he's hoping to have more contestants and maybe a longer show, because I do think in 4 episodes you have to move very quickly. You need a smaller amount of contestants, and I think that does factor into it. But other than that, I mean, I'm interested to see like where it'll go. I'm interested to, I think this first season, I mean, we haven't been to the finale yet, so I don't know what they're gonna do. I anticipate it being very similar to the challenges they've already done, as far as format-wise. I hope that if they do more episodes of this show and they do another season, which it seems like they're probably going to, because it seems like it's been pretty successful. I mean, this episode has 7 million views, which is really impressive. I will say if they continue it, I do hope that they continue to expand and kind of go through everything and really like tie it back to what it means to be an influencer, not to just be the next James Charles. I get that it's like his show, but even on like America's Next Top Model or RuPaul's Drag Race, it doesn't seem like they're trying to find the next RuPaul or the next Tyra Banks. They're trying to find the next drag star, the next supermodel. If this is truly a show about finding the next influencer, it needs to encompass all of those aspects, not just the aspects that James Charles thinks are important. So I would hope that for the future seasons, he brings in more opinions. I don't know how his process for forming the show was, but I think if he talked to more influencers and talked to more people and kind of got ideas from them as well, and not just from him and like the YouTube team, I do think it would be a little bit more well-rounded of a show. Does that make sense? So yeah, I'm really interested if you guys watched it. What did you think? If you just heard my analysis, what do you think? I'm really interested to see kind of where this goes. I'm excited for next week to do like a recap and a roundup of everything. I think it'll be really interesting to see, pretty much know who's gonna win, but I think it'll be really interesting to see where it's gonna go and talk about what it might be in the future. So yeah, if you like this video, please like and subscribe, or just subscribe, or do neither. Honestly, just so happy you're watching me. Thank you so much for being here. My merch, my social media, and everything I'm wearing on my face will be linked down below, along with a link to register to vote. That's right. You can click on that link, you can register to vote, and you can be part of your democracy. It's like a super fun thing to do. And if you're not from the United States and that link does not apply to you, please make sure you're staying informed what's going on, using your voice in a positive way if you can, because the world absolutely needs more of that. And also, wash your hands, social distance if you can, and please stop protesting the coronavirus. Instead, use your voice to vote for the right people who will support small businesses and people who are unemployed right now. And that's all I have to say on that. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!